Okay. So that today's presentation is the risk analysis of setting up a restaurant at NYC. And as I said, that Santoshi cannot be here to do the presentation, so I will do the presentation. And the motivation of this report is we attempt to find the localities that are safe and secure to set up a restaurant, specifically that are in New York City. We believe that people can benefit if, like restaurant owners who are aiming for good profits, or bankers that who actually want to approve a loan to a restaurant investor. And the other possibility is realtors or people looking to move into the New York City, actually that they can check to see a particular area is safe or no. This is our process architecture, and we actually just use 3 open data sets. From the New York City open data set website, the 311, the NYC crime, and also the restaurant. And then the process, and then we use the Spark, and so we save the information, and then we do analysis. Actually, that we use hive, so that as you may know that actually we can use different database, but because that we intend to try to use the Hadoop, and since that hive actually almost built on top of that, so we use that, and it's very similar to ZipCode, but hive is very good at to handle the bigger data. And even though that this time our data set is not that big, but anyway, we tried that rather than use the traditional relational database. And so, as I said, that because it's the HQL actually is very similar to ZipCode, and so that especially when you write the ZipCode statements and so on, it's very similar. These are the data sources. As you can see, that we have a 311 core, and that is actually is about 46 million entries. And for the crime data set, the New York City, the NYPD, the crime data set, that is about only 1 million. And then the other one is restaurant record is about 419,000 entries. And actually that they have several records, but the features that we use is the latitude and longitude, and then the incident type, the incident zip, and the date of the complaint for 311. For the crime data, and also that we have the late and long, and then the crime type and the crime zip code, and then the date of the crime as well. And for restaurant, phone cuisine, restaurant rating, and building streets, and so on. So what is a 311 call in NYC? Actually, that 311 is to provide public with quick, easy access to all New York City government services and information, while offering the best customer service. Helps the agency improve service delivery by allowing them to focus on their core mission and manage their workload efficiently. also provide insight to improve the city government through accurate and consistent measurement and analysis of the service delivery. SS 724, 24/7 and 365 days a year. It's of course interesting is that they actually they allow more than 100 languages. I believe maybe it's only the big city has this kind of services because we know that New York City is actually has more the most people, especially the immigrants. Actually, the immigrant, many people actually stay in New York, New Jersey area. So that is why they provide more than 100 languages. And so that you can use a different language to report your complaints or even the question or request and so on. This actually the data set. And actually that we classify the request into 3 categories. The 311 severity 1 and 2 and 3, and then we use that to count based on the zip code. As you guys may know, in the especially the NYC 5 floors, they have about more than 400 zip codes, and even tens of buildings actually is about the one building have their own zip code. And so as you can see that the New York City is very big, and of course that some people don't consider like a Queens and so on as NYC. Some people maybe only consider Manhattan as a NYC, but anyway that we use this to count. And so this is a criterion that we do the classification, like food poisoning, drug activity, and then this is severity 1, and such as mosquito, curb condition, and then this not very severe, and there is 2, and no permit of public toilet, some problem, and then is severity will be 3. And this actually is, we actually try to summarize that column to create this so that we can use later. For example, that this is a partial result. As you can see that we partition, and then I use the zip code. So you can see that this is some of the zip codes, and then you have a severity 1 and 2 and 3. All right, so we use this later to join with others to form the result data set, and then we use that to analyze. We do pretty much the same for the New York the Police Department's crime report, and then we create pretty much the same. We also have a severity 1, 2, and 3, and here you can see that we have some of this. This is also some of the partial resulting table, and you have a zip code and a severity, and then the count and so on. And we join all this together. All right, for example, that this is a part of this stuff, and then you can see that this actually we have stable and puts all this together, and actually we may not necessarily need all the stuff. Actually, one of the stuff which is interesting is we need to convert the latitude and longitude to zip code. And of course, that you might wonder why we need them since they're already in the data set. And of course, the reason is for some reason, some of these records, sometimes you cannot find the zip code. They only give you the longitude and the latitude information. And therefore that we have to do that to using the Geocode API. to retrieve the information about the zip code. I know that on internet, some of the web service actually they also give you, if you give them the latitude and longitude information, they can actually that they can give you a very precise information. Some may give you a which is straight, and I believe that actually they may need you need to pay. Even the Google actually originally that you don't want to pay. They only that limit you that how many time during a particular period of time how many requests you can make. But then I believe that now you have to pay. I believe the reason is because that the Google data they try to compete their cloud with the Amazon and Microsoft, because now I believe they are number three. So, but actually that when we did this at that time, we use a counter. So each time when we request a 10, then actually that you can sleep for like 2 seconds or so, so you won't overwhelm their server. And as long as they find out that some is using their stuff, usually they will actually block your IP. Right? So this would be dangerous. But nowadays, I believe that you have to pay. So this actually is some of the Python code. For example, here is a URL for you to connect to Google API. And they use JSON format. For example, in here, you can see the query string here. And then you simply just give the latitude and longitude. And you also get a JSON back, which is a Python dictionary. And then you can get the result and then process that uh, the JSON, which is a dictionary, so you can get the information. And this is when we use that actually to retrieve. But now that actually you have to pay, even though they don't charge you too much, but you can see that 1,000 request actually is about $5 or so. And then this is also another screen that you can see that now they charge it here. Actually, that we found another module which is called geopy module, which is at least for this time you don't have to pay. All right, so this is a good thing, and this allow you to, but the user agent actually they require that you have a user agent. You cannot. They actually ask you to put your email there. So if something's wrong, they can try to get you. All right. So for example, in here that we have New Jersey and New York and for example, in here even Vancouver, and here you can see we can get some result. But this Canada, maybe their zip code is a little bit different. I'm not expert in that, but this is some of the zip code which is we get. And then of course after that we process that we can start to build model by using PySpark, and then we create the model, and we read the final the CSV file and do the processing. Here is actually we do the filtering to get all this information. We have low recommendation and media recommendation, and then eventually that we arbitrarily using our common sense and to give recommendation by writing a logic, all right, which is a kind of a little bit, you can see that a little bit more complicated, but the logic is very easy. We use that to actually to try to give a category and to see if this is a low or a medium or high. And so we use this to categorize rather than use the original stuff. All right, so that is what we have for this recommendation and so on. Then we apply the decision tree to classify the zip code, because usually that when you try to set up a restaurant, and then most likely that you like to see is the location good or not good. As we know that in the real estate, they usually always says location, 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 and the location actually is a very important issue that which is we use. All right, so we use that to classify. And then this actually is some of these final results, and total count for prediction with low recommendation is about 4 million. And then the medium one is about 3 million. And then this one is a high recommendation area, is only about 3 million. So it's actually is pretty much like that. Is you can see is kind of pretty equal. So that is the pie chart. So to conclude, that actually that we model to analyze the risk of setting up a restaurant in NYC. But we do have a remark here, because as you guys know, there's many problems, especially for business. Actually, they close the store, many of them in New York City. So that this will be actually pose a challenging for future, because during this actual year and a half, this data actually was definitely different from the previous one. So if we process this, and in the future, because the pattern is different, maybe this pattern is they have their own patterns and so on. So this actually poses a challenge into the future data analysis. So this is a possible future work that actually that we can look at the housing rates. We know that some area in New York, like Upper East, Upper West, and those areas are high class area. It's very expensive. So if you have a restaurant in those areas, usually speaking, is more secure than in other areas. And the other is a population, demography, and or transit and green space, especially nowadays. Actually, in New York City, is not much green space, only around the Central Park area, and school and diversity. And the other thing that we can consider is more factors you can consider. For example, the ethnicity, like Asian or America cuisines and so on, and also that we can actually relate the data like a clean average and untidy, and that of course is because that before you set up a restaurant, the only thing that you can see is the area. All right, so actually that when you look at the restaurant or maybe the other data which is related to all these in that neighborhood, and then this maybe give us a guide to do better job. And then of course that you can see the menu options and so on, but once again that this is very subjective, and the service in those areas, and also the price. This is what we can think of. So that is my presentation, and